Midnight Shadow.
Most people know Tallahassee is Florida's capital. A city of sunny skies, college football, and that classic southern charm. It's a place known for its government buildings, sprawling university campuses, and roads shaded by ancient moss-draped oaks. But if you look past the postcard perfect image, you'll find a much darker history, full of chilling secrets, forgotten crimes, and deep injustices. The polished lawns of its historic mansions and the busy downtown streets hide stories that are just unknown, but in some cases have been actively ignored. Today, we're exploring the side of Tallahassee that doesn't make it into the tourist brochures. As we count down the 7 dark and unknown facts about a city that would probably rather you didn't know. From the blood-soaked ground of its plantations to crime scenes that baffled detectives for a generation, Tallahassee's past is littered with unsettling truths. And this isn't just a story about ghosts and haunted buildings, though it has plenty of those. This is about the real, documented darkness that shaped this city. A darkness that in some cases has never truly seen the light of day. So, let's journey into the shadows of Florida's capital. Our journey begins in October 1966, with a crime so brutal and bizarre it stole Tallahassee's sense of security forever. On the night of October 22nd, while most of the city was watching a Florida State football game, an unspeakable horror unfolded inside a quiet home on Muriel Court. Robert Sims, a 42-year-old state official, his wife Helen, 34, and their 12-year-old daughter Joy were bound, gagged, and systematically murdered. The scene, discovered by their teenage daughter, Norma Jeanette, when she got home from a babysitting job, was a true nightmare. Her father and youngest sister were dead, both shot in the head. Her mother, Helen, was clinging to life, but would die in the hospital 9 days later. The brutality was stunning. Joy had also been stabbed 6 times, and there were signs of molestation. What made the crime even more terrifying for the community was the total lack of an obvious motive. Robbery was quickly ruled out, since nothing of value was missing. There were no signs of a break-in, which suggested the family might have known their killer. The investigation was huge, and police even drained a nearby lake searching for the murder weapons, but they found nothing. The city was gripped by a fear it had never known. Doors once left unlocked were now bolted shut. Many families canceled Halloween, and women started carrying ammonia and water guns for protection. For over 50 years, the Sims case has remained Tallahassee's most infamous unsolved crime. A deep and painful scar on the city's psyche. Whispers of a botched police investigation and even a potential cover-up have lingered for decades, leaving behind a legacy of fear, suspicion, and the chilling fact that the people who did this likely walked free. The case is still cold, a haunting reminder of a violent night the city has never been able to forget. Just when Tallahassee started to think the Sims murders were an isolated nightmare, the terror returned. Almost exactly 1 year later, in October 1967, another horrific double murder sent a new wave of panic through the capital. This time, the victims were 2 teenage girls, Elizabeth Ann Wood and Kay Granger. Their bodies were found at Blue Sink, a popular swimming hole that became a secluded lover's lane at night, hidden in the Apalachicola National Forest just south of the city. The discovery itself is shrouded in mystery. At 1 a.m. on Tallahassee Police Department, his voice tense, reporting that he'd seen 2 bodies at the sinkhole. He wouldn't give his name, only saying he shouldn't have been there. To this day, nobody knows who that caller was. The scene was brutal. Both girls had been bludgeoned, and one had also been shot. Instantly, the city was convinced the 2 cases were connected and that a serial killer was stalking Tallahassee. The Blue Sink murders kicked off a messy legal saga that lasted nearly a decade, cementing Tallahassee's reputation for high-profile, unsolved violence. A suspect was eventually charged, but the case against him was filled with questionable testimony and legal errors. For residents still shaken by the Sims tragedy, the Blue Sink murders confirmed their worst fears. A deep darkness had taken root in their city, and law enforcement seemed powerless to stop it. If the 60s were defined by unsolved local horrors, the 70s brought a nationally recognized monster to Tallahassee. On the night of January 15, 1978, the city became the final, infamous hunting ground for America's most notorious serial killer, Ted Bundy. After escaping from a Colorado jail, Bundy made his way to Florida and unleashed a last, frenzied wave of violence. He targeted the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University, a place that should have been a safe haven. Slipping in through a back door with a broken lock, Bundy moved through the house with chilling precision. He attacked 4 women while they slept. Margaret Bowman, 21, and Lisa Levy, 20, were brutally murdered. 2 other sorority sisters, Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler, were severely beaten but miraculously survived. But Bundy wasn't done. After leaving behind unimaginable carnage, he broke into a duplex nearby and attacked another student, Cheryl Thomas, who also survived but was left with permanent injuries. The Chi Omega massacre threw Tallahassee into the national spotlight for all the wrong reasons. This wasn't another local mystery. This was the work of a known predator. Bundy's capture in Pensacola a month later and his trial were a media circus. The key piece of evidence that sealed his fate was the bite mark he left on Lisa Levy's body, a visceral signature of his depravity. The rampage proved that not even a state capital with its university and tight-knit community was safe from the kind of evil Bundy represented. The shadow of that night still looms over the FSU campus, a permanent, chilling reminder of the monster who once walked its halls. To understand the deepest, most foundational darkness of Tallahassee, you have to look past the 20th century crimes and into the very soil the city was built on. Long before it was a government hub, Tallahassee was the heart of Florida's Cotton Belt. Its economy wasn't just supported by slavery, it was entirely built on it. By 1860, on the eve of the Civil War, the power dynamic in Leon County was staggering. The enslaved population of over 9,000 people outnumbered the white population of about 3,200 by nearly 3 to 1. Tallahassee was a major center for the domestic slave trade. Newspapers of the time were filled with ads for slave auctions run by at least 5 different auctioneers in the city, right alongside notices offering rewards for people who had escaped enslavement. The city's wealth was built on the backs of the thousands of enslaved people in the county who labored on vast cotton and tobacco plantations. Places that are now beautiful museums and parks, like the Goodwood Museum and the Grove, were once massive operations built and maintained by the forced labor of hundreds of enslaved individuals. Life for the enslaved was brutal. Field hands worked from sunrise to sunset in the punishing Florida heat, all at the mercy of overseers. Domestic slaves lived under constant watch inside the main houses, where they often faced horrific abuse, including sexual violence from their owners. Slave codes were strictly enforced, making it illegal for enslaved people to learn to read or write, own weapons, or even gather for religious services without a white person present. This history isn't just a footnote, it's the city's origin story. The immense wealth and political power that made Tallahassee the state capital were extracted directly from the bodies and labor of thousands of people held in bondage. A dark legacy whose social and economic consequences are still felt today. With a history so full of violence, tragedy, and injustice, it's no wonder that Tallahassee is considered one of Florida's most haunted cities. Its paranormal legends aren't just random spooky tales. They're directly tied to the dark events of its past. The city's old cemeteries, antebellum homes, and even its downtown streets are said to be filled with spirits who can't find rest. One of the most famous local legends involves the Federal Exchange Building on Monroe Street. The story goes that it's haunted by the ghost of C.L. Mizzle, a banker who reportedly killed himself during the Great Depression, forever tied to the place of his financial ruin. The Old City Cemetery is another paranormal hotspot. Its most famous resident is Elizabeth Bessie Butt, whose ornate tombstone is rumored to mark the grave of a white witch. Visitors often leave gifts on her grave, and some claim the Edgar Allan Poe poem inscribed on it is proof of her powers. The plantations, sites of incredible human suffering, are also said to hold spiritual energy. At the Goodwood Museum, once a massive plantation, visitors and staff have reported hearing the disembodied laughter of children in the historic home. Even Florida State University is said to be built on haunted ground, with stories of mournful cries echoing across what was once known as Gallows Hill. These ghost stories have become a living folklore, a way the city's turbulent and tragic history refuses to stay buried. Tallahassee's darkness isn't just about unsolved crimes and social injustice. It's also baked into its political history. In the 19th century, the political climate in the capital wasn't just heated, was deadly. The most shocking example happened in April 1841, when a major political figure was shot and killed in broad daylight, just steps from the Capitol building. The victim was Lee Reed, a Southern Democrat, a former territorial marshal, and a big name in Florida's rough-and-tumble political world. He was in a bitter public feud with the powerful brothers of a rival political family, a fight that had already led to a duel. On that day, as Reed was walking down Monroe Street after leaving the Capitol, he was ambushed. His rival's brother shot him on the spot, ending his life in a stunning act of political violence. This wasn't a random crime of passion. It was the result of deep political rivalries that, in the frontier world of territorial Florida, were often settled with fists and guns instead of votes. The Reed assassination sent shockwaves through the small capital, shining a light on the violent current running just beneath its legislative debates. It proved that, in early Tallahassee, political power was a high-stakes game where an argument could easily end with a death sentence, carried out not in the shadows, but in the open for everyone to see. These stories are just a glimpse into the hidden history of Tallahassee. Every city has its secrets, and we want to hear about the dark history of your hometown. Let us know in the comments what chilling stories your city has tried to forget. And if you found this journey into the shadows interesting, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more explorations of the dark side of history. From the blood-soaked fields of its plantations to the lingering terror of its most infamous crimes, Tallahassee is a city far more complex and disturbing than its sunny exterior suggests. The stories of the Sims family, of Ted Bundy's victims, of the thousands of enslaved people who built the city, and of the political figures who settled scores with violence aren't just footnotes. They're part of the city's foundation. They remind us that history is never really in the past, and that the shadows of what came before are always with us, whether we choose to see them